come once again to discuss things.
On that note, hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I am Sid Part 2. Joining me today is Deadpoolzilla.
Hello everyone!
And the most delicious Geeky Gentleman, Ruben DeBoard, aka the Comics Kid 2099.
Hello.
Hello. Here we are.
That Ruben sandwich.
Yeah, I know, right? Oh, God, it's so delicious. So anyway, here we are yet again on Geeky Gentlemen, introducing people that have never spoken before. Ruben and Deadpoolzilla is their first time together. So Ruben, be gentle, and Deadpoolzilla, don't be too judgmental about his kinks. Okay. Anyway,
you're bringing people together. That's what a president should do.
Oh man, is that what I am? The president of Geeky Gentlemen? I can dig it.
Well,
I thought you were just the undisputed monarch.
Indeed. I prefer undisputed monarch or king for life. You know,
or Grand Admiral.
What did Augustus Caesar call himself? Princeps for life. Anyway, so Ruben's chosen our topic discussion tonight. Ruben, what will we be talking about tonight?
Tonight we will be talking about the seemingly how Hollywood, and I guess just movies in general, how they can't seem to get away from trying to franchise out everything. Like if they're making a movie about something, especially non-original IPs, but sometimes even original IPs, where it's like, okay, we've already got like 6 sequels planned out, and I don't really know when this got started. I wouldn't say it got started before any of us were born. The success of Star Wars in the 70s and 80s probably helped make a lot of people think like, well, I can do my very own, like, something really epic trilogy or whatever. And so, like, it doesn't seem like we get a whole lot of, like, hey, I'm just going to do, like, a fantasy movie and it's just going to be, like, a done-in-one. Like, everyone wants to do a franchise, like spin-offs, sequels, prequels, etc.
And so you say this got started before any of us were born, and I completely agree with that, because honestly, the sequel is nothing new.
Right.
There's a sequel to the biography of Christopher Columbus. There are like, everyone knows, the Greek tragedy Oedipus Rex, where dude fucks his mother and kills his father. Everyone knows that play has both a sequel and a prequel. Or is it 2 sequels? One of the two. But anyway, like, the sequel is nothing new.
Yeah, the only reason it's so forefront these days is because it's become a little rampant. And that you could argue that it's been, sequelitis has been a thing since, like, it wasn't a major thing until the prequel trilogy or the Lord of the Rings trilogy. But let's be honest, the main thing of why people want to keep making these massive sequels and subsequently shared universes is because of the Marvel films.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Marvel films have done a lot to show that the franchise can be a long-term success, that you can keep it going and going and going.
And I would say, like, for me, I think there's a difference in, like, we made a movie and it became huge and it said, okay, let's do a sequel. There's a difference in that, and, like, I think I mentioned this last week whenever I was explaining what we'd be talking about this week. Like, the King Arthur movie that came out last year bombed financially.
To bring that up.
Yeah, and they had 6 King Arthur movies planned. Like, before it even came out, they had movies planned. And, like, they've got the same thing going on with this Robin Hood movie coming out later this year. So, like, I feel like that's kind of what I'm thinking of, where it's like, before even one frame of the movie is in theaters and people are already making plans for sequels, prequels, and spinoffs. Like, I feel like that's different than, like, we made 1989 Batman movie and it was huge, and so we make a sequel a couple years later.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
idea of... go ahead, Deadpool.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, the only film that didn't feel like it had like a sequel in mind or anything planned I've seen recently was the Rampage film.
Oh, God.
Oh, really?
I like totally forgot that was a thing. Is that good or does it suck?
It was actually surprisingly good. Like, it's the best video game movie I've ever seen.
Okay, that's encouraging.
Not extremely high praise, but still that, it's
Well,
probably...
like, compared to what we've had, it's the best.
Okay. No,
But
like
the
that's...
thing is that there was clearly no intention for a sequel, but it left it open so you could do a sequel or something in that regard, but it never was like, oh, we're building a universe off this. So I was
the
like,
Rampage monster movie verse. Like, what would you even? Never mind. What would you
do
franchise
a team
with?
Do a team up with Jason Statham in the Megalodon movie.
Oh God, that movie looks like garbage.
I know. And I actually read the book that's based on, and it's like, the moment I saw that, I was like filled with this rage.
Anyway, yeah, the idea of the franchise, we're going to make multiple movies all at the same time. Dimplezilla mentioned Marvel. I think the thing that was also very successful at that and kind of put the idea in Hollywood's head was The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Shooting all 3 movies at the same time, that whole thing. And that'd been tried before, but it hadn't been very successful. It hadn't gone the way the director wanted it to go. And I'm dancing around Donner's Superman.
Okay, yeah.
Because the studio liked the movie and just weren't happy with Donner anymore after the first one came out, so they put Lester on it, and they'd been shooting the 2 films concurrently, and Lester coming in, and he reshot as much of the movie as he had to legally put his name on the director's position. And that was like a whole thing, so...
I'd say also, I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Dune, David Lynch's Dune, but I want to say that was probably an attempt at making a franchise, and then it just did not work. I've read the first Dune novel, and then looking at the Dune movie, they're putting in stuff that was in some of the sequels that's not in the first book, and it looks like they're really trying hard to make, like, David Lynch's weird version of Star Wars, and then it just didn't do what they wanted it to do, so we never saw any more of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Same with, like, Kevin Costner's movie Waterworld, or...
Waterworld.
I know. What was another one that was, like, it tried to be a franchise, but it derped before it even had a chance to do so?
Was it The Postman?
Huh?
Are you talking about a Kevin Costner movie? Was it The Postman?
Yeah, it wasn't The Postman, but no, that's a good example. But I was thinking of another. But yeah, that's also it's also funny that we're bringing this up because Toho has announced that they're going to be doing a kaiju shared universe when they get the rights back from Legendary in 2021.
Wait, so like they're doing a kaiju shared universe like they didn't already have one? What? Like,
well,
wasn't that always a shared universe?
It was. Well, now they're doing a new shared universe. They're revamping it because yes, there was in the. From 54 to 75, there was a shared kaiju universe, but now they're bringing it back again.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, so the effects of franchising are nothing new, but it is interesting to see how successful they've been, because I remember when there was all the buzz about whether or not Nolan was going to do a sequel to The Dark Knight and yada, yada, yada. And one of the interviews with him was something of him saying something to the effect of, well, how many third movies in a franchise can you name that are actually good?
Yeah.
And usually they end up being like the weakest of the franchise, right?
Yeah.
And that was like the whole argument Nolan was making. And that certainly was true at a time. But now, I don't know, like... It just seems less the case now.
Yeah. I can name, like, a few good perfect trilogies. Like, I could tell you the Toy Story trilogy. Perfect. The Planet of the Apes, the new era of Apes movies trilogy. Perfect.
Yeah.
Eh.
I'd say one, I haven't watched all of them, but I'd say most people prefer Army of Darkness over the two Evil Dead movies, right?
Yeah. Same with
Oh.
Revenge of the Sith, best of the prequels.
Yeah, a lot of people say that. It's just interesting the way that it all kind of comes together. Like, as time has gone on, we've gotten more. Like, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, like, all of the third movies are the best movies for those individual characters. Iron Man 3, Thor Ragnarok, Captain America Civil War. Like, they're all really, really good movies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even Avengers Infinity War, I think, might be better than Age of Ultron.
I don't know. I may not agree with that, but I don't think Avengers Infinity War is bad, but I think I like the other two Avengers movies better.
That's fair. To be fair, I don't think you can like Infinity War. But that's neither here nor there. But anyway, it's just the way that we've gotten a lot better at franchising and finding ways to tell compelling ongoing stories. I don't think it's any mistake that it's with comic book characters that this seems to be going so right. Given that
God damn it.
What?
My cat's trying to get at the fish.
Oh, okay. Given that comic book characters are designed to be ongoing stories,
Yeah.
I don't think it should be much of a surprise that we've gotten more of their movies being good. But then there's the underlying question here: what effect is this having on filmmaking as an art form?
Well, I'm glad that you... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, Ruben, if you have got something, I'll wait until you're done.
I'm glad you brought up Nolan, because whenever he was either when he was in the middle of making Batman Begins or when he was in the middle of making The Dark Knight, he mentioned that when he's making a movie, he's not thinking about the next movie. He's thinking about that movie he's making. And so, like, in the middle of Batman Begins, he's not thinking about, okay, we're going to bring in Two-Face and Joker, and then we're going to have Two-Face turn into Two-Face at the end of the movie and all that. Like, he's working on what's going on at hand. And I think that's the way to do it. Now, sometimes that might lead to, I don't want to call it short-sightedness, but like you look at the early Marvel Cinematic Universe stuff, it appears that Tony Stark is wanting to put together a team of superheroes to hunt down the Hulk, and then they don't go in that direction because you had a new guy steering the ship by the time you got to the Avengers. But I think that sometimes you can look at, like, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is a good example, where they are thinking about the big picture and they're not necessarily thinking about the smaller movie at hand. Now, the last several that we've gotten, I think, have been pretty good on their own, but you look at some of them and it's very clear, like, they're setting up pieces that are going to be knocked down later down the line. And I think that as far as movie making goes, it looks a lot more commercial than it's just, an artist telling a story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so, too. What were you going to say, Deadpoolzilla?
I was just going to say that I think, for a lot of the Marvel movies, a lot of directors have, from what I understand, a lot of the directors have a lot of free reign, at least nowadays, in the new phases of the Marvel films, because Ryan Coogler said he got to do everything he wanted to do with Black Panther. The Russos pretty much said that they got to do whatever they wanted with Infinity War. So I wouldn't say it's... Yeah, James Gunn especially got to do what he wanted with Guardians, but the major factor is that I think it depends on the director and how studio-friendly they are. I mean, look at Josh Trank's Fantastic Four.
I'd rather not.
Yeah, but the point being is that I think it depends on... It all depends on the certain director and the creative staff. As long as everyone's in sync... Again, I can't speak for every director or every producer or whatnot. I think it depends on the relation between both director and studio and everyone else in sync with this project. As long as everyone's good, I think the art form is still there. As long as the people who are a part of this get to tell the story they wanted and not what the studio wanted, it's going to show, especially if it goes wrong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think...
If that makes any sense.
No, I see where you come from. And the thing for me, I guess I'll be the dissenting opinion here. is I worry that if you can't just tell a story, if you have to be able to leave room for a sequel or something like that in case it's successful, that you undercut how good a movie you can make if you're not able to just focus on the movie itself. Especially with superhero movies, can we have a superhero die in a movie that's not the actor leaving, like Logan? Can we kill off a superhero nowadays? Or just, not with big franchise, big blockbuster movies. If movies keep getting, if the really expensive movies keep getting made and keep making a lot of money, good for the studios and all that, but, like, what incentive do they have to invest in producing, smaller budget films that don't have that big wide audience appeal but are important for the, art form of filmmaking? What do you do with that? There's a lot of stuff where it's just like, well, where does this go? What does this become? If it's gonna make its money back and not much else, but it's just a passion project for the director, or it's just like a experimental thing, what's gonna happen to those projects?
Yeah,
so that's my concern with franchising is if everything has to be a franchise, what do you do if you just want to tell one story? And it's important that there isn't room for a sequel. I don't know. Throw that one out there for thoughts, comments, concerns.
Well, I think if you wanted to see, like, let's say Moon Knight, like, I doubt that we're ever going to get Moon Knight. Maybe we will. Maybe 2 years from now, I'm going to look back on this and I'm going to eat my words. But right now, I don't think we'll ever see Moon Knight as a Netflix show or as a movie. But if somebody in Hollywood said, I want to make a Moon Knight movie, and he's going to die at the end or whatever, or like he goes insane and they lock him up. I think that the only way that could happen is if you have a really high-profile director, and I can't even think of one who would be high-profile enough. Like it would have to be somebody like I don't know who did the Godfather movies.
For Coppola.
Yeah, so like Coppola, like if he just said, hey, Kevin Feige, I want to do a Moon Knight movie. And then Kevin Feige said, yeah, absolutely. And then he said, but I just want it to be one movie. I don't want to do any sequels. Like, I think that's the only way you could get and not even, maybe a smaller budget, but like where it's like just the story only demands that this one thing be done and said about this character. We don't have a 3-part plan and he's going to join the Defenders and he's going to show up in Avengers 4 or whatever. I think that's the only way where you could see that happen. I don't see like a smaller time, lesser known director saying like, I'd like to just do this one movie and not have any sequels. Like, I think even if you are really friendly with the studio, that wouldn't happen.
Yeah. That's a good point. What I kind of think of is, like, what if they wanted to adapt Tom King's Vision? Like, you can't do another Vision movie after that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you just can't. He's not the same character after that. And obviously, with them pairing Vision and Wanda together, they've actually laid the groundwork for it, but I don't think it's going to happen. And I mean, I don't think it's going to happen because you really can't make a sequel to that. And also, the studio would never buy into something like that because you can't make a sequel to it, and people are going to be pissed because it's this fucking sad-ass book. They're not going to be happy with it, so, like, and they shouldn't be. You shouldn't be happy with it, and that's the point. But, like, that matters. That kind of reaction in a thing matters. So yeah, like you can't do that story now because it's not franchisable. It's not franchise friendly, and that's disappointing because it's a great ass story arc and it could easily be turned into a movie and say something really important in that form too. But I don't think it would ever happen.
Right, I doubt it would either. And there may come because. And I think maybe something like Tom King's Vision could have been done or at least would have been more likely to have been done before 2008, like before we started having like shared universe as like a buzz phrase. Like you had shared universes before the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but it wasn't like, now I just imagine like every pitch meeting in a studio in Hollywood is like, oh, but it's going to be part of a shared universe, right? Like I imagine that's just part of their process, is like, well, Disney and Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios has made like $1 zillion with this, so let's try and copy what they're doing. Yeah. Before that, like you look at like superhero franchises from before 2008, and like you talk about the Sam Raimi Spider-Man or the Bryan Singer X-Men, and then of course it becomes, you know, the Bryan Singer / Brett Ratner X-Men. But like those were, a lot of people look at that, and I mean like Spider-Man 3 is garbage, but like people look at that as Sam Raimi's vision for that series. Not, no pun intended, talking about the vision, but like, you know, I think something like that, maybe not in terms of like content where it's like really depressing and it's like just, you know, hits you in the guts like where it hurts, but something like that could have been more likely to have happened before the advent of all of these superheroes exist in the same world, and what happens to the Vision is going to create a ripple effect and will affect all these other characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like, I mean, it'd be cool as shit to put Tom King's Vision in the MCU, especially given that he fights off the Avengers and fucking slaps their asses down in that run.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the studio will never do that.
Yeah,
right.
Just they.
Now the other thing is that a lot of these, you know, like the King Arthur film and the upcoming, I guess, the Robin Hood film, and even with
Deadpoolzilla. Deadpoolzilla.
Oh, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Like what I was trying to say is that it feels like with the upcoming Robin Hood film, because if that's going to be like a 6-movie thing, and same with King Arthur and even the Mummy movie for Dark Universe, is that some of these films don't feel like a lot of these studios think that maybe if we just put it out there and say it's going to be a shared universe, it's going to make money. That's not the case. You need to put there's like a lack of effort in some of these films. Like if they just think that, oh, if we say shared universe, people will come back and watch the other films to be like, oh, maybe, you know, this film will
eventually it won't suck.
Exactly. And that's kind of the thing, is like,
hashtag that's the DCEU's plan.
Yeah. Yeah, talk about the definition of insanity right there.
Right. Oh, well, I know this movie sucked, but we're going to release an extended cut that's slightly less sucky.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are any of these movies ever going to not suck? Wonder Woman's going to be slightly alright, but problematic as fuck. Okay.
Just wait till Aquaman and Shazam show up.
I'm legit excited for Shazam, especially since the poster. But
I like the moment I saw I've been on board with that since the set photos.
Yeah, that is one of the like really good superhero costumes. Anyway. But yeah, like there just seems to be this effort, and you know, you're right, Deadpoolzilla, that shouldn't be enough. But at the same time, I had no interest in Dracula Untold till they said, "Hey, this is the start of the Universal Dark Universe thing." I'm like, ooh, okay, now I'm intensely curious. And then they took it out. And then they're like, okay, the Mummy's going to be the real start of the Dark Universe. I'm like, well, alright, I'm a little disappointed because I actually quite like Dracula Untold, but alright, how's this Mummy movie? Sucks. Oh.
Yeah, I didn't watch it, but I was fascinated by the trailers.
It's not good, though there is one tangent, but whatever. There is one scene in that I actually really, really like and think was really, really smart. So they have her captured in London, and she breaks free and calls upon the power of the sands, like he does, like the Mummy movie does in the Brendan Fraser thing, to do like the big cloud of sand in the face and all that shit. But it's fucking London. There ain't deserts and beaches and shit. So literally every piece of glass in the city shatters into dust.
Oh.
And she controls that. I'm like, that's actually fucking clever. The fucked up part, yeah, it doesn't amount to anything. It just like, Tom Cruise just fucking runs away from it for like 2 minutes and then it's over. and like it didn't amount to anything. She just used it. And it was like, oh, well, that was pointless.
Yeah,
but yes, the Dark Universe thing. I was legit excited for the Dark Universe. Too bad it kind of sucked.
And now they're trying to bring it back for a third time.
Yep. Maybe stick with something.
I think that one, I would have been much more excited if they had just started with a different film. I just was not in any way interested in Tom Cruise or The Mummy. Like, I know a lot of people were saying, like, oh, the original Mummy's the best, and I was thinking, oh, you mean the one from the 1930s? Oh, no, they're talking about the Brendan Fraser one. It's not the original. And I'm not even a Mummy purist, but, like, when somebody's over here saying, like, the original Mummy, I'm instantly thinking, you're not talking about the original. But I feel like if they had done, like, a modern-day Dracula movie, like...
I would have been, you know what would have been better for me? Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah. And then, I mean, now we have Shape of Water.
Wait, can we just have Guillermo del Toro do his own Universal shared?
Yeah.
Well, funny you mentioned that. Funny you mentioned that, Ian, because word on the street is that Shape of Water was what del Toro pitched Universal to do for a Creature from the Black Lagoon movie, but they said no.
Who ended up producing that?
Warner Brothers. No, Fox.
Okay. I don't know who the monsters... Like, because Frankenstein's public domain, Dracula too, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I feel like they're both public domain, so, like, can anyone just do a shared monster verse and it not be Universal?
Yeah, and here's the other... Did you guys see that trailer for Mowgli?
Saw, like, 5 seconds of it.
Yeah,
no, I haven't.
That's good. It's Andy Serkis's directorial debut doing a live action Jungle Book for Warner Brothers. Mm-hmm. Not even 2 years after the Disney one.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I don't know. Like, I feel like that's like almost a franchise, sort of. It's not the same characters. It's not the same actors, not the same studio, even. But it's kind of. It's kind of the same thing where it's like, okay, there's this thing going on. We're going to cash in on that and, like, synergy or whatever. And that's almost like it doesn't exactly involve the same thing as, like, hey, we've got this Robin Hood movie, and if it works, we're going to have 5 more where it's all coming from the same studio. But it's kind of like, I don't know, like, hey, Disney just did a Jungle Book movie, so Andy Serkis, you're going to do one too or whatever. And then, like, they all just kind of hit around the same time, and then everyone's burnt out on the Jungle Book for like 20 years.
Clone projects are so fucking bizarre to me because there are so many movies that are like the exact same film, and I'm just like, wait, which one of these came out first? Like, what was it? Olympus Has Fallen and White House Down came out within a year of each other.
That was exactly what I was thinking.
Remember I, Frankenstein, and then months later came Victor Frankenstein?
Yeah, and they both sucked.
It's hard to imagine.
You keep mentioning the Robin Hood shared universe, and here's the thing: King Arthur makes perfect sense for a shared universe because you got the Knights of the Round Table; they can all have their own movie, just like the Justice League and Avengers. You got Merlin; that it makes perfect sense to do a King Arthur shared universe.
You could
Who the fuck do you have for a Robin Hood shared universe? Where do you go from Mary Magdalene the movie? What the fuck?
You mean it's Maid Marian?
Maid Marian, yeah, I fucked it up. Like what the fuck's she gonna do?
Wait, Ian, you're saying you don't want a Little John movie?
Yeah.
That's like, come on, Little John, we've got to save Maid Marian. What? We've got to save Maid Marian. What? We've got to save Maid Marian. Okay.
Oh, Chappelle Show references never get old. No, like, seriously, though. Like, it's just, where the fuck do you go with a fucking Robin Hood shared universe? That's just grasping at straws. Like, the Friar Tuck movie. What the fuck is that gonna be?
It's a silent night, and a deadly night at that.
I'll tell you what I would do. I would, this is my free idea, Hollywood, if you want it. At the end of this Robin Hood movie, it's like the Robin Hood multiverse, and this kid is going to meet like Kevin Costner, and he's going to meet Russell Crowe, and everyone who's still alive who has been Robin Hood. Sean Connery was Robin Hood once. Just bring them all in, and it's just like, hey, the new kid needs our help. Let's go. And then it's just
we
like,
got the guy from Men in Tights and a CGI version of Errol Finn.
yeah, oh yeah, it's tasteless, but hey, let's do it.
Yeah. I have a question though. Like, all right, what Arthur's set in what, like the 900s, 900 AD? Usually?
Arthur,
11th century.
Okay, so that'd be 1000s then.
Mm-hmm.
When the fuck's Robin Hood supposed to be? Like 13th, 14th century?
some stories have in the Crusades.
Yeah, post Crusades.
Okay, so that'd be 13, 1400s. I was about to say, like, can you put Arthur and Robin Hood in the same universe, like, concurrently? Would it really fuck up Robin Hood that much? But yeah, if you have to tie it into the Crusades, I suppose so.
Well,
doesn't Arthur go on a crusade? Maybe?
Yeah, the book, The Once and Future King, Robin Hood just shows up. Like, at one point, Arthur's foster brother wants to go on an adventure, and Merlin is like, hey, go in that forest. And he meets Robin Hood and the Merry Men. I'm pretty sure T.H. White just didn't care about, like, consistency with other Robin Hood stories. But yeah, so it's been done. We've had the characters meet before.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I don't know, like, it just reminds me of the 90s Zorro live-action show where Diego just decides to go on vacation in France, which was, like, really fucking stupid because, you know, vacation holiday back in that time meant I'm gone for 3 months, not 3 days. But anyway, Diego decides to go vacation in France, and he runs into the descendants of the Three Musketeers and has to fight with them, and I'm like, that's so dumb! Mm-hmm. Like, you're talking post-French Revolution Three Musketeers movie? What the fuck?
And
makes no sense.
In the Disney animated Hercules movie, it was either the Hercules animated show or the Aladdin show. One of them guest starred in the other one.
Oh no, it was in the Hercules show that Aladdin guest starred in.
And that makes zero sense. Like, different continents, different time periods, separated by like 1,000 years.
Hey, it made a hell of a lot more sense than the Lilo and Stitch team-ups. Am I right, Ian?
God, the Lilo and Stitch team-up. The Disney cartoon shared universe of the mid-2000s was fucking bananas. Like, Kim Possible kind of fit in. Fucking American Dragon didn't make any sense being in that shit. Oh my god, that was a mindfuck.
Sense was the worst.
Oh.
I like the American Dragon cartoon. I never watched the Lilo and Stitch crossover, though. But I like American Dragon.
Awful. And Recess, Recess is by far the worst. You got, like, Recess, this pretty down-to-earth show where kids just, like, you know, act like jackasses on the playground. And then you got fucking Lilo and Stitch hunting down alien mutants. And it's like, yeah, those things make sense to cross over.
The only way I would accept that is if Gus's dad, who was in the military, if he's like in charge of like, okay, sir, we have another UFO incident, and it's like he's in charge of like hunting down like whatever mutant that Lilo and Stitch are encountering that week. Like, that's how I would do it.
Yeah.
It still would be stupid. I'm just throwing out free ideas all over the place.
We're building our own shared universe. This is gold.
Yeah. To be fair, I will say this: it's not related to anything, but out of all the Disney 2000 series, I think Lilo and Stitch had the strongest premise.
Really?
Especially out of all the spin-off series from the movies, I think Lilo and Stitch had the strongest premise.
I would say them and the Tarzan show.
What the fuck was the Tarzan show?
The one based off the 2000s movie.
What the fuck did they do?
They went to Pellucidar. There was fucking... You know, they actually did some of the Edgar Rice Burroughs novels.
Oh, what? So they just said nigger a bunch?
No. God damn it, Ian.
that was a dig at Edgar Rice Burroughs, because those books are fucking racist.
Well, it's actually more insulting because Edgar Rice Burroughs shows up in the show.
Oh, really? That's pretty bad. Anyway, this is so not related to anything. Okay, anyway, back to...
If anyone's watching at this point, I pity them.
Yeah. No, so, like, just the like process of doing a shared universe is like some of these, yeah, they're just grasping at straws. I'm like, what the fuck are you thinking? DC and Marvel makes perfect sense to me. Maybe I've just drank the Kool-Aid of the way superhero comics work, but it makes sense to have a shared universe. That's just how the characters are in the comics. You know, you read a DC book and Superman just pops in the Batcave for 5 minutes and it means nothing. It's like, hey, I just came to borrow a cup of sugar or what the fuck ever. But like some of this shit is just, again, fucking Robin Hood. Can the general public even name another character that interacts with Robin Hood?
No.
I don't understand the thinking.
There is also I'm thinking of some examples of like shared universes where like it's really subtle, like a stealth shared universe that 99% of the people wouldn't even know. So I haven't seen the movie, but there's a movie, American Psycho has Christian Bale in it. It's like really popular. The character in that, Patrick Bateman, has a younger brother played by James Vanderbeek in another movie. And I cannot remember the name of the movie, but it's like, because these are based on books, The Rules of Attraction. And like, that's a situation where like, I don't even know if anyone's watched the movie The Rules of Attraction, but like...
Wait, it's funny enough you mentioned, because I was watching this before you called me.
Really?
Yeah.
And so like, that's one of those things like, I'd say most people aren't aware that like, there's a, air quotes, shared universe there between those two movies. And I think that's... Go ahead.
Well, technically, all of the Stephen King novels and the Quentin Tarantino films are all in one universe.
Yeah, I was going to mention Quentin Tarantino. Someone really did an interesting take on that, breaking down the timeline, because before Django Unchained, the earliest set movie that Tarantino did was Inglourious Bastards, and so the reason they broke it all down, that everyone is so intensely interested and has such complex opinions on pop culture, is because Hitler was killed in a movie theater. And so, like, everyone's got really complicated opinions on pop culture because more importance was placed on art and filmmaking because of that. And so there's all these, like, people go on these fucking rants and raves about movies and music. Quentin Tarantino in Reservoir Dogs has his whole thing about Madonna's song Like a Virgin, and it's all over the place in his movies where people have these really complicated opinions. Death Proof, what's her name? Jungle Julia goes through like a whole thing about a band that no one's ever heard of. That like
Peter, Paul, and Mary, maybe
something like that. Yeah. So yeah, just like this, it just the shared universe of Quentin Tarantino's films really doesn't mean anything because there's no real crossover between the films. But it's actually a big deal because the more you watch them, the more they feel like they actually all belong together. And then there are the other like subtle references, like everyone smokes Red Apple brand cigarettes, and what's the other one? The Vega brothers. There's one guy with the name Vega in Reservoir Dogs, and then there's Vincent Vega in Pulp Fiction.
And then in Death Proof, there's a couple shared characters from that and Planet Terror that Robert Rodriguez did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you could make the argument that Rodriguez's films are also in the same universe as the Tarantino films.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Though I don't know if that's still going to be like a trend because the next Tarantino movie is going to be about the Manson murder. So I'm wondering how that's going to fit into this whole thing.
I mean, like, they still had a World War II. They couldn't have a hippie movement and a Manson.
Yeah, he may even do what he did with Inglourious and just have, like, Manson gets killed or something instead of going to jail. Like, they may just alter the timeline like they did with earlier.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta say, like, I can never truly express to you the feeling of being in the theater going into Inglourious Bastards for the first time. And how damn original an ending to a World War II film that was. I was like, holy shit. Like, I was expecting some kind of bullshit circumstance. It was going to be like a body double for Hitler. It was going to be like a dream sequence or some shit. No, they just fucking murder the shit out of Hitler in the last 10 minutes of the movie. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Definitely unexpected.
Murder. Yeah, more Hitler murder. That's what I'm saying. That's what would make all these shared universe movies a lot better. Just all of them murder Hitler.
That's the mid-credit scene in all these movies, is that Hitler just dies in the most brutal ways imaginable, one film after another. Like, it's like an Itchy and Scratchy cartoon.
Yeah. Okay, actually, this makes me think of a thing. So, spoiler alert first, but Deadpool 2. How weird is it to talk about the X-Men shared universe? Or the X-Men franchise, I guess you'd call it, wherein, like, so much development of that world has been done off-screen, and then we just see it happen. And I think Deadpool 2 is a really, really good example of that, because we got, like, Essex House, the Icebox. Like, so much shit was established just in that movie as already existing for years.
Yeah.
That shit just came out of nowhere. Fucking mutant restrainer collars. When did that happen? I saw X3. They did not have mutant restrainer collars.
Yeah. Where did the Juggernaut come from, and how did he get there?
I don't know. The funny thing is, you never see the Juggernaut's face, so it totally could be the guy from X3.
I think each X-Men movie is built on the premise that whoever is watching it has never seen another X-Men movie, because they certainly aren't consistent with each other.
Yeah, I remember seeing a fucking Dynamite tweet once. It was like, please, just stop. I can't. You asked me to explain the timeline of the X-Men films.
Oh, I saw. This is getting so off topic, but I saw it was like a series of tweets where it was like, this girl is talking to a guy on their first date, and she says something about how the Juggernaut is a mutant, and in his mind he's thinking, should I correct her, or should I, and then like risk not having a relationship with her, or should I just say nothing and have a relationship with her? And it's like, each path is like bad, because if he doesn't correct her, then years later she's on Jeopardy, and she gets the question wrong about the Juggernaut being a mutant, and so it's like, it screws his life up no matter what.
Their whole relationship would have been built on a lie. See, I didn't even fucking know that shit. God damn it. What the hell? So yeah, it's just like, there's so much fucking shit done in the X-Men movies that it's just, oh yeah, there's an awful future in Days of Future Past. When did that happen? Mm-hmm. And why did that happen?
Yeah, same with Logan, you know.
Oh god.
Yeah.
Fucking yeah, Days of Future Past gives that timeline a happy ending, and then Logan's like, bitch, smackdown. Like, well, shit. I mean, Logan's a great film, but like, what happened? There's just so much off-screen development, and it kind of works, but it's weird as fuck. Mm-hmm. Anyway. Man.
You think, do you think, like, so, like, talking about, like, those subtle, and I don't even know if, like, Stephen King, you mentioned him, Deadpoolzilla, I don't even know if Stephen King, I don't consider those to be very subtle. Sometimes I'm watching, or, like, and I haven't read a Stephen King book and it's been about 10 years, but sometimes when I'm watching a Stephen King movie, and they'll just do the most blatant reference to something, and I'm thinking, like, wow, like, there was one, it was a TV miniseries called Storm of the Century, where it's set on Rhode Island, I think, and this small town, they're all inside the town hall or whatever, and this guy who's kind of like Satan, he comes, and you knew this was going to happen because it's a Stephen King thing, but he comes and he's like, I want to take some of your kids and turn them into my sidekicks, and at one point, one of the townsfolk mentions that Rose Madder woman who lives, like, in another state, and it's like, that's not even subtle. Like, that's the name of one of Stephen King's books, is Rose Madder. And so, like, I feel like with Stephen King, and it works there. I'm not the biggest Stephen King fan.
Well, the biggest one with the shared universe is the Dark Tower books. where it's clear that that's all connected in the Dark Tower, and even in the upcoming Doctor Sleep movie. Well, it's already been out as a novel, but that's a sequel to The Shining, and actually ties in with several other books.
I knew it was a sequel to The Shining. I didn't know much about the plot, but the Dark Tower, you've got references to characters from Eyes of the Dragon, and then later you just get straight up starring roles for characters from Salem's Lot, and then Insomnia, stuff like that. And so if you don't read the Dark Tower and you just read It and Eyes of the Dragon, you're probably not going to catch any of these connections. But yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird when to think of Stephen King's shared universe, because it's not really a shared universe, it's just a shared state, because it's all in Maine.
Yeah. If not anything, that tells you one thing: Maine is a horrible hellhole to live in. Apparently.
I know, but at the same time, it's got a beautiful Prison Break. You know.
If you are
watch Shawshank Redemption now, fuck.
What did Maine do to Stephen King that made him want to just turn that whole state into a giant festering demon pit?
If you are a writer and you are living in Maine, get out now, because you're putting the entire state at risk when a gigantic evil demon monster is going to consume the state. And we're talking It. Oh man, now
the Langoliers, those giant flying butthole monsters.
Oh no, I almost had those scrubbed from my mind. It's each of them. It's a timid, quiet writer faces off against a dark evil in Maine. And it's so I just described 80% of Stephen King's works.
I think does Stephen King just have a bunch of tickets in a hat that he kind of shakes up, and then what's the plot of my next novel going to be? Character, setting, monster.
Well,
it's lay up monster.
Didn't the Shining take place in Colorado though, or is that where it was filmed for the movie?
I can't tell you. It's been too long since I've read the book.
Yeah.
I've never actually watched or seen The Shining.
To be fair, there are times when it's not in Maine. 1408 is set in New York. I think, there's times when it's not, but it's so much of it. At least 85% of his stuff is in Maine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and with those,
do you remember the one about the Nazi and the kid?
Apt Pupil, was that it?
Yeah, that was it.
I didn't know that was a Stephen King thing.
Oh yeah.
And I think with him, if you read The Dark Tower, I think The Drawing of the Three, that's the second book, and that's the one where Roland briefly mentions, or he's thinking about how he met these two characters from Eyes of the Dragon. You can read that, and you don't have to read Eyes of the Dragon. You can just read this, and it's just a fun little multiversal cowboy story. And then when you get to Wolves of the Kala, where Father Callahan shows up, you probably don't have to read Salem's Lot. I can't remember because I was in high school when I read Wolves of the Kala, but I think you get enough information about Father Callahan that you're not sitting here saying, who the heck is this guy? And you're not getting the Marvel Comics, little asterisks there that says, check out Salem's Lot, true believer, And I feel like that's a big thing with these shared universe movies. You can watch some of these movies just fine, and in some of them it's you have to do your homework and watch 18 other movies to really get.
I can't imagine anyone or what it was like for people who didn't watch any of the Avengers movies before going to see Infinity War.
Yeah, or any of the films.
Yeah, when I worked at the station, it was when Avengers 2 came out. I worked at the news station. One of the reporters says, my boyfriend and I went to go see Avengers, and apparently, there's all these superhero movies that are Marvel that had come out to lead up to it. I'm like, where the fuck have you been for, the last 7 years? What have you been doing? Living in a box?
Where have you been past 10 years?
I know. Just, how did you... I can understand not watching them because superhero movies aren't your thing, but, not knowing that they existed? What? It was so bizarre to me. Anyway.
And I guess that is a downside to the shared universe phenomena, is that there are people now who are 15 who were 5 years old when Iron Man came out, and they can't necessarily be expected to have watched all of these movies because, like, I don't know if young people, and I say young people, I mean, I'm not like an old person, but like, I don't know if people in high school, do they still buy DVDs or Blu-rays, or do they just stream it on like Amazon or Netflix and don't worry about having it? And if that's the case, like, are they going to be that worried about trying to watch all these Marvel movies before they, like, I've got a date with so-and-so, we're going to go watch that Avengers thing at the movies. Like, so, like, there's definitely, like, when it's been going on that long, like, it is kind of stupid when someone says, so apparently there are these superhero movies, like you said, like, that's a given. Like, you can't even throw a rock without hitting an advertisement for Infinity War. But, like, at the same time, when it's been going this long and it's this expansive, there's 18 movies. Lord knows how many TV shows there are. I can't keep up with all those. And then, like, there are going to be people out there who will probably watch one of these movies without having watched all the others.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, and that's the thing is, one of the things I like so much about Avengers is it doesn't feel the need to explain anything. It's just like, yeah, if you haven't watched these other movies, you're kind of shit out of luck, friend.
Good fucking luck.
Yeah, like, it's all dependent on that, and that's really, really good, because, I don't know, man, I read comics. Does anyone else besides me often just skip the catch-up page?
Yeah, I do. I never read the catch-up page.
And, like, I don't know, Marvel does the page that tells you what's going on, and then DC actually involves it in the first couple pages of the story, so it's harder to skip there. But, like, yeah, I don't usually bother fucking reading the catch-up page unless I'm forgetting shit.
Or if it's
like,
been
are we
months.
Gonna have to, we're gonna have to, like, is Marvel, like, 5 years from now gonna have to start booking, like, the first 15 minutes of the film to just previously in the Marvel Cinematic Universe show you, like, a little brief catch-up of everything that's been going on to this point?
You know what would have been perfect if they had Michael Pena's character from Ant-Man and the Wasp do a catch-up right before Infinity War started.
That would have been great.
Yeah, like, I don't know, like, or here's the other question. Once a franchise goes for so long, how long until we have to do a reboot?
Well, it's not...
James Bond lasted, until the 90s before we did a reboot. Like, Pierce Brosnan's Bond is supposed to be the same guy as Sean Connery.
Right. And I think what works about Bond and Doctor Who is that, and I don't watch Doctor Who, so anyone who's a big Who fan, I don't know anything about it. So, like, what works there is that, yeah, it's all the same continuity, but you can jump into Doctor number 8 without having watched Doctors 1 through 7. They're not going to be doing a lot of, like, hard references to what came before.
You definitely will not, especially with Doctor number 8. You'll get a shitty-ass motorcycle chase.
Okay, so like I said, I know nothing about Doctor Who.
The audio dramas will definitely reference a lot of classic stuff, so that was a poor reference on your part, Ruben.
No,
yeah, I said,
no one fucking watches the audio dramas or listens. Yeah, no one fucking watches the audio dramas. No one pays attention to the audio dramas. They don't count. Hi, Joel. I know you're listening and you're upset right now. Anyway, no, like, yeah, sure, fine. The audio dramas are really, really context dependent. But you know what? I didn't watch a fucking frame of Doctor Who before I started with the Ninth Doctor. And you know what? I was fine.
Yeah, that's what I was mean. Like, and I don't know 1 through 9. You can tell me, and I, like, gun to my head, I wouldn't be able to tell you. But, like, what I feel like with Doctor Who and James Bond is that it's a loose continuity, and it's not even that there's any inconsistencies. It's just that they're not going to be relying too hard on plot points from earlier. Like, you can jump into Christopher Eccleston or David Tennant or Matt Smith or Peter Capaldi or what's the lady who's going to be doing it now?
I don't remember her name. Shit.
Jodie Whittaker.
Okay, yeah. So, like, it's a gentle, like, not even a removal, just a gentle, like, ignoring of past continuity. And kind of like, I mean, they do that in comic books all the time. Like, we've had Dan Slott on Spider-Man for like 10 years, and now we're going to have a new creative team. And it's not that they're completely contradicting what Dan Slott did. They're just gently ignoring it, and they're doing their own thing. It's still set in the Marvel Universe. It's still the same character and same supporting characters, but it's a new direction. And I don't see them doing that with movies anytime soon, unless, 10, 15 years from now, they still want to do Spider-Man movies, but it's like, okay, he's now in his 30s. We're just going to like do a Spider-Man movie, and we're not necessarily going to reference the Green or the Vulture and, all these characters from Spider-Man Homecoming.
Mm-hmm. Well, by then we'll be on our like 7th Spider-Man or some shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It's the loose continuity thing, but like, yeah, what will Marvel do eventually here? Obviously Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, a bunch of those guys want to leave. They're kind of, it's been 10 years for them that they've been doing this, and it's been great for their careers and everything, but playing the same character for 10 years, it gets to the point where you have to move on. A bunch of the Phase 1 era actors are ready to go. I mean, are we going to recast? Is that what's going to be happening? Or what? Or are we going to kill them? Yeah, like, are we going to actually do legacy heroes? What's going to happen here as this franchise keeps going and going and going? And this is not a question you would have to think about if you were just making a movie. Mm-hmm. But since you're making a franchise, you have to.
And that's another thing, like with the 2009 Star Trek reboot. I remember reading somewhere where they were saying, like, it was really important that we cast really young here because, like, they cast younger than all of the original series actors were at that respective time, except for Sulu, I think. Is his name John Cho? Who?
I don't remember shit.
The guy from Harold and Kumar. So I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that he was the only one who was actually older than his respective actor playing his character at the time of the original series. So like everyone else, they were really trying hard to cast really young so that they could like milk as many movies out of them as they could. And of course, it ended up being moot anyway because the next one was like 4 or 5 years later. But that's something that you see a lot where it's like, okay, if we're going to make a movie, we don't want to get someone who's old because then we won't be able to make as many movies with them. And that sounds really crass, but it's something that they think about whenever they're thinking in terms of a franchise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. And then there's like things that they're now creating stuff from a property to make franchises out of. Like Fantastic Beasts for Harry Potter. Like, okay, we had fucking 8 Harry Potter movies that spanned an entire generation, but we really want to keep making money. J.K. Rowling, write more Harry Potter stuff. But Harry's story's over. Yeah, just fucking like, I don't know, do like young, sexy Dumbledore or something. Okay. Can I have a check, please? It's kind of nuts. And to be fair, I really like the first Fantastic Beasts, best Harry Potter movie, but still, it's very much a cash cow. I was having a whole conversation on Twitter the other day about how J.K. Rowling clearly did not think through some of the implications of the shit she pulled in that franchise. So, like, here's just a question for anyone that has opinions or likes to speculate about Harry Potter, but like, what the fuck does the wizarding community think of the Muggle space program?
Oh yeah, I remember you posting that on Twitter. Yeah,
like fucking seriously, like what was the reaction to that monumental cultural event? Like, Carl Sagan had a whole thing, like the most remote tribe in the world that has almost no contact with the outside world knows that people walked on the fucking moon. So like, what's the fucking magical community's opinion on the space programs? What was the wizarding community of the 60s, 70s, and 80s? What was their opinion on the fucking space race?
I always got the feeling that the wizards in Harry Potter just had blatant disdain of all things Muggles. And so, like, even if it's something good, like, they were still just like, those Muggles, look at them walking on the moon. Like, I don't know, like, I always got the feeling they just didn't much care for anything the Muggles were involved with.
Yeah, but
You know what would be really cool?
What I think is that she just straight didn't think of that, and
Mm-hmm.
like that'd be fine-ish if not for the fact that you had, you know, characters like Hermione who were born to, you know, normal people, but then
Right.
got into the magical world. So, like, what happens with the kid who was always super, like the NASA kid, you know, like the space kid, the kid in school who's like obsessed with rocket ships and shit? What happened to that kid that found out he has magical powers when he was 11 and gets sent off to school? Did he just fucking stop caring about NASA? What happened there?
Well, what if you learned you could like levitate people with a wand and shoot lasers? I mean, I'd stop giving a shit about being an astronaut, start being a warlock.
I mean, maybe, but like, why not do both? Why not use your magical powers to go travel in space? Here's the fucking question: does the Wizarding World have their own space program?
Oh, I would say they
more so. Are there aliens, extraterrestrials in the Harry Potter universe? And more than that, are there alien wizards in the Harry Potter universe? I need to know.
It's funny you're talking.
To know.
Mark Waid's Doctor Strange comic is going to be tackling that.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
I do believe one of the Harry Potter movies had a guy at the pub who was reading like Carl Sagan or something. Now that I think of it,
You know what would be real? You know what I want instead of gangsters and gangsters and wizards. You know what I want? I want like a Vietnam wizard story.
Oh yeah.
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 Or Apocalypse Now meets Harry Potter, or Full Metal Wizard.
Yeah, so I don't know. Just that's really nothing to do with anything. It's just something that's been kind of itching at the back of my head. It's like, yeah, she really didn't think some of this stuff through. Just very clearly, this was not thought through, because this is a question that it only takes 2 seconds of thinking about before you're like, wait, what the fuck? Like, this is the more burning question. So apparently the First Wizarding War took place concurrently with World War II. What was the wizarding community in Germany's opinion on Hitler?
Oh yeah, that's a good.
Were there Nazi wizards? Because like in one of the books, the Prime Minister of London, or not London, of England, like meets with a representative from the Ministry of Magic. So like the Muggle Prime Minister is aware of the existence of wizards. I have to assume that's the same with, most countries around the world, that like the leader of the country is aware of the magical sub-community. What was Hitler's interaction like with the German wizarding community?
Did they or denounce them? These are real questions. Okay, now you've got me asking questions. And
here's the thing. Hitler was really, really into the occult and mythology.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, so like this is a legitimately thought-provoking question with real-world implications for the cultural dynamics of people in the wizarding world of Harry Potter. And as far as I know, we've never gotten any kind of answer for it, and it's kind of silly.
Because J.K. Rowling is more interested in the center, what in the here and now, or the then and now, if you want to go by Fantastic Beasts. I'm not even a Harry Potter guy, and I'm asking these questions.
Yeah. I don't know, it's just like it's like Harry Potter really needs like an ongoing comic series that's just not connected to the movies at all, just fleshes out the what the hell questions of that universe.
Mm-hmm. And it's big enough, it's big like the Star Wars universe, so you could get away with that.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't know, we're kind of just going all over the place. And Star Wars is the one franchise we haven't talked about because yeah, Ruben, you're right, it's one of the first blockbuster franchises. Like, obviously, Jaws was the first blockbuster summer film, but Jaws was never meant to be a franchise. Star Wars, I mean, I don't like giving Lucas this credit because it's not the case, but Star Wars was meant to be more than one movie. Not the original cut. the original, or the final cut of the original film was meant to be all it would be, and no one ever expected it to make a dime. But Lucas had a wider story that he wanted to tell from the very beginning that was going to be multiple movies. But regardless of all that, like, Star Wars was the first blockbuster franchise, and then it was over, and then it came back 15 years later, and then it was over, and now it's back 10 years later, and now it's going on forever.
Yeah.
And I don't know, we just got the news of a Boba Fett movie finally getting confirmed to be made.
I think we did Logan.
What?
The James Mangold, the guy who did Logan, he's doing Boba Fett.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, like, I don't remember if I had told you this, Ian, or if I had told, I was talking to Connor about it probably, but I'm just so Star Wars'd out right now, like, and have been for a little while. Like, getting a Star Wars movie every year is going to get old really fast for me. And, like, that's, like, coming from this whole, like, franchise, like, talk, like, I just feel like for me, and I don't even want to, it's going to sound like I'm just being, like, a gatekeeper, and I don't want to sound like that, because, like, I look at little kids that I go to church with, and they're all huge Star Wars fans, but for them, Star Wars is the Rebels cartoon, and, like, kids who are a little older than that, it's the Star Wars prequels, and I'm really glad that they have their own Star Wars. And for me, it's the original 3 movies that I grew up watching. Like, not even the 1990s cuts, but the versions from the theatrical cuts that were taped off of VHS off TV. And so, like, for me, just getting, like, a Star Wars movie every year, occasionally you're going to get something that I'm going to like. Like, I think Rogue One is a very well-made movie that's just really depressing, and it's not easy to watch. And then, like, I didn't really care for The Last Jedi, but, like, I feel like... Do what? I
like Last Jedi, but I'm not going to fight you.
I you know what? Everyone else liked Last Jedi.
No, that is not true at all.
Well, I see, for like 3 months after Last Jedi came out, there were people on... It was constantly trending, and it seems like the only people I saw who did not like Last Jedi were, like, hugely sexist or hugely racist. And yeah. I don't want to put myself in that company, because I like to think that I am neither of those things. And I couldn't even, like, I tried to just put Last Jedi out of my mind since it came out, so I don't want to start any fights, because everyone I've talked to has said that they really like Last Jedi, and I'm glad. Like I said, I'm really glad that kids have their version of Star Wars, and that people who like Last Jedi have their version of Star Wars, but I feel like this idea of we're going to make Star Wars movies until the end of time is going to burn up, I don't know, like, I feel like that's not the way to go with it.
Maybe. I don't know. It's an interesting thing. So far, I'm, like, hit and miss with how much I care. You know, Solo comes out today, tonight, actually, as we're recording. You'll probably be able to discern that then. But anyway, Solo just came out. I don't know, I might go see it. I'm kind of really interested in what Donald Glover's going to do as Lando, but otherwise, I've never been a Han Solo guy. He's, like, I remember being, like, fascinated that people liked Han Solo more than Luke, and I was never able to understand why. But yeah, I've never been, like, much of a Han Solo guy, so I'm just like, okay, that movie's gonna exist, and I don't know, I guess I'll eventually watch it. I don't know if I'm gonna run out to the theater to see that this weekend. But at the same time, they announced Donald Glover's getting a Lando movie. I am so fucking down for that. You have no idea how ready I am for that movie.
Why was that not a movie first before Han Solo?
Right? That's so how I'm thinking, too. Like, I am infinitely more interested in the Lando movie, Donald Glover or not, than I am in the Han Solo movie. And then, like, Boba Fett, yeah, sure, why not get something a little more morally gray with, like, a bounty hunter and shit? And, you know, fans fucking love the character for years. Yeah, sure. If he's got enough of a fan base just for appearing in the background in 3 of the original trilogy movies, yeah, fuck it, just give him his own movie. Why not? I can...
You know, I'm actually, like... You know, it would be a perfect way, like, this is how I would do a Boba Fett movie, is set it, like, a couple years after Return of the Jedi, and you focus on, like, the rebuilding of the underworld post Return of the Jedi, because Jabba's gone. The criminal underworld is like scattered right now.
Oh, you could do some Black Sun shit? Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, you can actually, this could be a cool way to show, like, this is Prince Caesar's rise to power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like shit like that could be really interesting. I don't know. The Star Wars universe is big enough, literally. You have entire planets to hop around on. The Star Wars universe is big enough that, yeah, an ongoing universe is something I can see, especially if we're not tied down to a single cast. That's the thing for me, is, you know, what goes on in the fucking Rogue One has absolutely no impact on The Last Jedi.
Right.
Actually, that's not true, because there's a little reference that you don't get until you see The Last Jedi hidden in Rogue One, but still. The main events of the plot have nothing to do with it. It doesn't... If Rogue One sucked, it doesn't mean a damn thing on the quality of The Last Jedi, or vice versa. And that's really, really appealing. Whereas, like, you know, I liked Man of Steel. I still think there's an argument to be made for Man of Steel, even though Batman vs. Superman made me go, yeah, I'm giving it too much credit. But, like, that's the thing, is Man of Steel became a worse movie because of the events of Batman v Superman. It made it worse. It actively made it a worse film. That's not the case with Rogue One and Last Jedi or anything like that. Even if, you know, like, J.J. Abrams' Episode 9 is going to have an effect on Last Jedi and Force Awakens, but it's not going to have an effect on Han Solo. It's not going to have an effect on Lando or Boba Fett as far as the story itself. And so that's the appealing thing about the Star Wars shared universe, is it's loose enough that you can do whatever you want with it now. And that's what I really like about the idea of getting a Star Wars shared universe compared to the superhero comic book movie stuff.
Yeah, except that right now it just doesn't look like they are. Like you said, we're doing a Han Solo movie, we're doing a Lando movie, we're doing a Boba Fett movie. Hey, these are all guys who appeared in the original trilogy. I would be really excited if they said, we're going to do a movie set at the dawn of the universe and the Jedi Order first forming, or we're going to do something set...
Yeah, if they do some Old Republic shit, that'd be really cool, but now they are trying to play it safe.
Yeah, or like, you know, do something like 200 years after the death of Rey, like way, way in the future or something. And like, let's explore some of that. Like, at first you guys were saying that you would set a Boba Fett movie after Return of the Jedi, and my first thought was, if you do a Boba Fett movie, I would like to see it set like a few years after Revenge of the Sith, where he's not yet the quiet but deadly bounty hunter guy. Like, he's just getting started and people don't fear and respect him yet. But then I feel like we're still constrained by like stuff that's happened, and I would love to see, let's create a new character. Let's do something brand new. And we're kind of doing that with The Last Jedi and those movies, because the next movie will not have a single original trilogy actor in it. We've killed off Han Solo and we've killed off Luke Skywalker, and then Carrie Fisher died in real life. So now we are fully in new territory with this third movie that's going to be coming out.
Chewbacca, but
no offense, Chewbacca fans. I don't really count him because he doesn't have a whole lot of agency on his own. So anyway, but yeah, we have Chewbacca and we have the droids. But
you son of a bitch!
Yeah,
I will not sit here and let you say that kind of vile garbage about Chewbacca. He's 170 years old. Respect your damn elders. Sorry.
And he looks great. By the way, that's like the one thing from the Han Solo trailer that I laughed at, was where he said, like, you look great for 170 or whatever.
Yeah, it's like 130, so I'm trying to, like, add up the timelines.
Right.
It's like, but another 40 years.
He's 190.
Oh, is it 190 then? Shit. I really thought I got it. Oh, well. Yeah, so anyway. Yeah, you're right, Ruben, and I would love to see some Old Republic-style shit. That would be so good. Mm-hmm. Oh my god, that'd be so cool to see some Old Republic shit come up. You know, just hold off. Wait for it. Could you imagine if we get, like, some Sith Empire shit?
I'd be down for that.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know, the franchising for filmmaking... I mean, I'm a bit of a hypocrite because I'll go watch, like, basically all of them, more or less.
Me too.
But at times I do worry about it. I do worry that about the films we're not getting that side of the cost. And, of course, everyone's favorite criticism is Hollywood can't come up with its own ideas anymore. I'm like, that's not true. There are still movies being made that are completely original. It's just you're not going to see them. So it's really your fault that Hollywood hasn't come up with new ideas because you're not going to see.
Yeah, you were, talk about originality. How many of you guys went to go see Blade Runner 2049 or I don't know, what was
Fully
it?
original film, no sequel, no adaptation. Ex Machina. How many people went to go see Ex Machina?
Not me.
How many people went to go see Dunkirk?
Not me.
Oh no! Oh, no one? Well, there's your fucking problem.
Yeah, it's your own damn fault.
I am 100% guilty of this. Like, I will only watch movies that are part of some other thing. Like, this year I've watched like Infinity War. I watched Deadpool 2. I watched Black Panther. What else came out this year? Thor Ragnarok was last year. Like, I pretty much only watch things that are sequels to something or are based on something that I already like. And, I'm 100% like, let's have some new original ideas. I'm not saying it out loud as much because I know I'm a hypocrite, but like, The Shape of Water was more or less an original idea. Like, we're joking that it's the creature from the Black Lagoon, but like, it's an original thing. I didn't go watch it, but I'm glad that it did great. And then like Pacific Rim, I didn't like it, but it was an original idea. So like, I'm glad that that's still happening.
Guillermo del Toro, you can say a lot about him. Original ideas is one of those things.
Yeah, earlier when we were talking about how he had pitched Creature from the Black Lagoon and they said no, and then you mentioned something about monsters, I actually thought you were talking about the people who said no to his idea as being monsters. Because I was thinking, like, who keeps saying no to him? Like, he gets rejected a lot. Like,
we're not getting, like, I so don't care about the new Hellboy movie. I'm sure it's going to be fine and everything, but, like, Guillermo del Toro's movies are so good.
Well, I like them too, but the reason why I'm pulled into it because one of my favorite directors, Neil Marshall, is heading that film.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm just like, damn, it really kills me that del Toro doesn't get to finish his trilogy.
Yeah, and especially with how they left it at the end of 2. But like, he got shot down for Hellboy 3. Apparently because it was going to be too cost prohibitive, but then he did Pacific Rim, which cost like $1 zillion to make, and they're still doing a sequel to that. He got shot down for his adaptation of At the Mountains of Madness. Yes, I was about to mention that, which is a Cthulhu thing. I don't know jack about Cthulhu, but I just know he got shot down for that. Then I just found out tonight he got shot down for doing The Creature from the Black Lagoon. Like, he keeps getting like all these ideas that he's thrown out there.
The Hobbit.
Oh yeah,
The Hobbit.
Was he? Did he pitch to do that, or did they ask him to do it?
He was originally going to be the director producer. He was going. Peter Jackson was just going to be the producer on that, executive producer on that franchise. Del Toro was going to do all of it, and then it all fell apart at the last minute for him. And then like 2 months after he leaves the project is when they got Jackson back in directing and all that shit. So the studio like kicked him off of The Hobbit.
It's so crazy. Like, he is probably one of the most like artistic directors today. Like, he is visually brilliant and just like always coming up with, if it's not a movie that, like, I don't like Pacific Rim, but like it's got a lot of interesting visuals in it. And so like, I don't understand how these people keep justifying saying no to his projects. Like, at this point, it's money in the bank if you say yes to a Guillermo del Toro movie.
Especially after all the 4 Oscars he won last year. I mean, this year.
Yeah. It's actually really funny. I love Conan O'Brien. Conan did an interview with Guillermo del Toro where he walked through del Toro's house. It is exactly as weird as you think it is. All right, so I think that wraps up our franchising thing. A little bit of sad news. Steve needs to take a brief hiatus from the show. That happens from time to time. So, Deadpoolzilla, you want to fill in for him for a couple weeks?
Yes, I will. I will carry this burden.
Yes. All right, then, Deadpoolzilla, we need a review topic for next week. What have you got for us, sir?
I talked about this with you, Ian, a couple weeks ago, and since our other review of this band can never see the light of day, tune in next time when we talk about A Perfect Circle, its latest album, Eat the Elephant.
Eat the Elephant by A Perfect Circle. Okay, sounds good. Should be interesting. music reviews, not a thing we do often. So, all right, everyone, thank you very much for watching. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
I am the Don Juan of Comic-Con.
And I'm the Comics Kid 2099.
And we are your Geeky Gentlemen. And we will be discussing things.